if you're watching or listening to this right now, I want to take a few seconds and just take a quick inventory. Let's start with you. Chances are you have a device that you're consuming this on, which means you have electricity, you have internet, you have a body that's keeping you alive and functioning so that you can see and hear this, and you have time. On the other end of you, there's us over here. There's a video crew here, we've got a studio, we've got lights, production, and talented people putting this all together. And then, to help this content get from here to you, it involves a bunch of advanced apps and technology that didn't even exist a few years ago. There's so much in this world that's so amazing, and yet we so quickly get used to it, and eventually we just take these amazing conveniences for granted. And typically I've noticed that anytime we get into the habit of taking things for granted, we stop saying two key words: thank you. There's a story in scripture that highlights this perfectly. Jesus was traveling, and he happened to come across 10 people who all had the same disease and were outcast from their community. They were far away from him and screamed out to Jesus for some healing. Jesus healed all 10 of them from a distance, and then only one of them took the time to come over and say, "Thank you." What happened to the other 9? Well, Jesus apparently was wondering the same thing. In Luke 17, verse 17, Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." Here's a truth we can all be reminded of when it comes to gratitude. Unexpressed gratitude expresses ingratitude. In the story, 10 people were healed, and I'm sure all 10 people felt grateful, but only one of them actually took the time to express their gratitude. As for the 9 of them that felt grateful but didn't express their gratitude, to Jesus, it must have felt like they took him for granted, and that probably felt like a lot of ingratitude. But even though Jesus knew this would be the case, he freely healed them and loved them anyway. That just shows how amazing his grace is. How many of us, don't raise your hands, would admit that sometimes we also take Jesus for granted, even though he's the healer of our actual souls? So let's learn from the example of the one. I'm sure there's someone you feel grateful for today, but maybe you haven't expressed it in a while. Maybe it's a family member, a coworker, a neighbor, or an old friend you haven't caught up with in a while, or even Jesus himself. Let's find a way to leverage the gratitude that we feel in our hearts and take a step to express it today.